Hi everyone, it's Carrie again. Today, and I'm sorry I took a bit of a hiatus. I've had a little bit of a health issue that I am making an upcoming video on. At this point, it's not out. It might take me a couple weeks to work on that. I am, you know, dealing with it yet. So when I'm ready, I'll put it out there, but it'll be within probably the next week or two. Anyway, I'm back, and today we're going to talk about the fox. It just when I think these issues are over and it couldn't get any worse, it's crazy, unbelievable how it just comes back into your life, right? So, um, this one just won't go away. No matter what I do, the fox just keeps following me. So, um, in reality, the fox is a very important animal to me. At many points in my life, foxes have shown up out of nowhere, um, not even necessarily in the wild, in suburban life, and sometimes even in the cities. Or when I'm driving down a freeway, all of a sudden there'll be a fox there. Whenever I see a fox, I know that there's something hidden that's about to come to light. It never fails. This one happened to be a human fox, but nonetheless, things came to light with this situation as well. This was one of my online daters. It was the probably only boyfriend I've had in between my divorce and now. I would say it was a real boyfriend. It was only a 2-week relationship, so, not putting a whole lot of stock into this as a relationship, but it did linger for a while, so we do have to count that. Forgive me for my lighting again. It's a little dark tonight. I'm doing this very late, so I might end up having to pull up the flashlight again to read some of my cards. I did have to, put this in chronological order because so much happened that it's crazy to, I would be bouncing around all over the place. So I tried to put it in order. So we'll just start with when I met him. Okay, we had been talking online for a couple weeks. This was in January of 2020. And February 1st of 2020, we had our first date at Starbucks, of all places. And I'm not a real Starbucks person, but we chose to meet there anyway. And he was just this total wonderful guy, the guy that I was talking to on the phone, for endless hours. It was him. I mean, he was probably not, if you were to judge him on the outside, what he looked like, probably a little scruffy. Definitely kind of he gave the heavy metal vibe. He gave a motorcycle-ish kind of vibe. He, the tattoos, the piercings, he was fully loaded, and he's an older man, with these types of things, but that was part of his character. That's part of who he was. So I wasn't going to judge him that way. I thought he was an attractive man with or without all of that surface coating stuff that made him feel comfortable with who he was, which was fine with me. But he, showed up. He saw me, in the parking lot, came up to me, ended up, opening my door for me in my vehicle, then took me to his vehicle, gave me some flowers. Took those back to my vehicle. Then we went in, he bought me a drink, and we sat down and we talked. And immediately there was a connection. The chemistry was completely there. I had no doubt in my mind that I was crazy about him already at that point in time. And we had talked for about an hour. And the cute thing was there was another couple just a few tables down from us that the girl was doing a lot of talking and the guy was just kind of sitting back with his arms crossed. And I'm pretty sure they weren't married. It seemed like they were on like a first date as well, but it did not look like it was going very well. So I felt really bad for the girl because I think she really liked him. He just seemed very disinterested. But anyway, our talk was going great. We were sitting side by side. We took our phones out. We were going through things even on social media, and then we just decided, let's just change our Facebook status right now. Let's choose to be a couple, and we did. It was that quick, that fast. I had no doubt in my mind. I mean, it was that love at first sight kind of thing, but it wasn't. I wasn't in love with his looks. I was in love with the gentleman that he was being, and who he was showing me he was through conversation and body actions and things like that. And it was really sweet to see. And everything he had told me, his words were matching with his actions. So it was like, wow, what a relief. There is a real human being out there. Well, apparently he had lots of practice. So that's all I'm saying. Um, that we did end up spending the first night together. We went back to his place. We had some wine, and I said, "Well, if I drink, I'm not driving home." And it was about a 20-minute drive, and he agreed. Okay, that's fine. You can spend the night. We spent the night. We did have sex. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was great. Everything was still great. In the morning, he had to, get up and go to work, and so did I. I had to leave to go to work. He started work before I did, so I had time to drive home. And he got up and he said, he even made the comment, I could wake up like this every morning with a beautiful woman in my bed. And I was like, oh, that was a compliment. That I was really floored. I was really, wow, this guy was fantastic. He had me come over the second night. I ended up spending the night again. That next morning, he seemed he wasn't as friendly. He wasn't as nice. You could tell he needed his morning coffee. I think the tiredness was starting to catch up with him. At the same time, we had agreed that I could stay long enough to drive his girls to school and then go to work. So, for a couple days, I went there, spent the night, and then would take his girls to school, and then I'd go to work. For me, that first week, everything seemed fine, except he was grumpy in the morning. Okay, true colors are coming out. He's not a morning person. That's fine, But all of a sudden, he got very argumentative, and um, at one point, I was just sitting at the kitchen table reading some Bible verses out of my Bible, and he's like, "You can't have that around my daughters." I'm like, oh, okay. Well, they're sleeping. So it's not like I'm preaching the Bible to them. But he just, I mean, that started, a big argument. I'm like, okay, I put my stuff away. I'm like, then I realized there was probably a control or power issue, or, I didn't know what was happening. He just was flipping a switch within days. And then we decided, no, I think your girls can take the school bus today. And I think I'm going to leave, and we'll talk in a couple days because it got really bad. Um, and I didn't want to be in a relationship like that. We saw each other on and off for the following week, and then it was Valentine's Day. He had spent the night at my place on the 13th, got up, and we were having an argument. So we were going to go to bed, ended up in a terrible argument. And at 2 a.m. that morning, he said, I'm breaking up with you. The following day, we had tickets to go to a concert. Or we didn't have the tickets, but we were supposed to go to a concert in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And of course, no, we weren't going to go to that because we weren't together anymore. And then that morning, well, his vehicle wouldn't start. Apparently, his battery went dead. So then it took hours to get somebody here to jumpstart his vehicle and what have you, because I didn't have jumper cables. And so then it's like 5 a.m. Then I'm starting work while they're, luckily I work from home. So I was working from home, and they were out fixing his vehicle. Then he had to come back in. I had to take a break from work. And then he said, well, he'd be back later. Came back later in the afternoon with a box of chocolates and a card. And I'm like, well, what does this mean? We're broken up. What are you doing? And it was Valentine's Day, and I couldn't understand why he'd break up on that day, or I didn't even know why we broke up, in all honesty. Just he was, and he was always on his phone, texting and laughing, and it was a sign to me. There was somebody else he was talking to clearly online that he had more interest in than the relationship we were trying to build. To me, okay, I can't prove that for a fact. Never took his phone from him, never asked, it seemed that way. And anyway, then later in the evening, he called and he said, well, me and my daughters are going for Chinese. Do you want to join us? Like, no, I'm not going to a Valentine's Day dinner with you. You just broke up with me. No, I think I'll spend Valentine's Day by myself. I was kind of like, what? Did your date fall through or something? It was just really bizarre how the day went and how his attitude started changing. But um, I did not go. We ended up continuing to talk like friends. And this concert we were supposed to go to in Eau Claire, that same band was playing in Marshville, Wisconsin, which was actually closer to us. So I bought tickets. He had called me and he says, "Do you want to go as friends?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And in this period of time, about almost a month had transpired. Well, actually, a month. It was 4 weeks, from February 14th to March 13th, because March 13th was concert day. And um, I bought tickets online so that we could go, and we were going to go as friends and stuff. And during that period of time, he had expressed to me that um, he felt bad about everything and we should still be friends because I was the first person he dated since he left his wife. Well, him and his wife have been separated for like 3 years, I guess. She lived in Wisconsin, he lived in Minnesota at the time of the separation. Then he moved to Wisconsin to be closer so she could see the kids. Um, but there still was a traveling distance between them of several hours. And they were not officially divorced. They weren't even legally separated. Nothing. So I ended up finding out he was a married man on top of it now, which, I did not know he was married. But I was the bridge that he needed to get himself out there to start talking to women and dating other women. I thought, oh, great. Thanks. I'm the bridge. I'm like with the troll under the bridge now or what? Whatever. I was like, you can take that explanation elsewhere. I really don't care. We're not getting back together. Whatever. We're just friends. So we did go to this concert. The band that was supposed to play couldn't play because there was sound system issues in the venue. Um, they said they might be able to play at a bar down the road, which is a much smaller, venue. But we all went down there. A bunch of us went down there anyway. Never did get a refund on my tickets, by the way. But we went down there and waited. This other band had several other acts playing. They were going to try to squeeze them in, but due to contract issues, they couldn't play. So, but the um, intro band was going to be able to play. Wasn't crazy about seeing them. I'd never heard of them before. Their name was Gain, Gain, and I loved them. So it turned out to be an absolutely fabulous night. I got to see a new band that became one of my favorite bands, and it was great. On top of it, there was a guy there. He was also happened to be from Minnesota, and I started talking to him. And now this guy, I ended up finding out, was in a 22-year relationship. There'll be a video on him too, because that got really complex. That he was in an unhappy relationship. They were just living together. They'd known each other for 22 years, but he wasn't technically with anyone. So he's talking to me. We exchanged phone numbers, and of course he, called me and texted me and stuff, and I wouldn't really say a relationship, but something happened, and I'll make a video on that one. But I met this guy that night, and the fox that was with me um, was really upset. He was in and out of that bar and just angry, just terribly angry that I was talking to this other man. And I go, listen, you're sitting by these other women. There were these blonde girls there practically chasing him around to the point where, at one point, where we're sitting at this bar, I said to him, it was him, me, and then the two blonde girls came up and sat next to me, and they had stopped him and talked to him, earlier in the evening. And I looked at him and I looked at them. And I was like, well, would you like me to move to the other side of you so your friends here can sit by you? He's like, no. And I go, well, I can, because the guy that I had been talking to was sitting on the other side of him. So I was like, I'll go talk to him. You talk to your little girls here, and we're all good. I don't care. And so I did, move. And then he's like, you're jealous. You're upset. I go, no, you do whatever you want to do. We're not a couple, dude. We're just friends. It's fine. Do what you want to do. I'm not going to lie. He was putting on the moves like maybe he wanted to get back together. We ended up leaving the venue, and the whole ride home, which was almost an hour drive, he's just going at me. yelling at me and yelling at me and yelling at me. He goes, and I thought I wanted to get back together with you. I thought I wanted to be with you. And I'm like, well, you didn't run those thoughts past me, mister. Okay, so what, you think that just because you decide you want to get back together with me, I'm just going to jump and, oh, yes, absolutely. I've been dying, waiting for this very moment in time. No, I'm sorry, dude. You need to get your head out of your butt because you have no right to be mad at me. If anything, you should be sad that you missed your opportunity, okay? Anyway, moving on. We get back to my place, which he's really drunk, so, and I don't drink. So, of course, I drove and I told him he could spend the night. And he got really upset, we just argued all night. A couple days had passed, and um, he ended up coming back over to my place, and we got into another huge argument where he basically, came at me, and I basically told him, "Leave. I'm never speaking to you again." And he did. And then that was it. I hadn't heard from him for over a year. Then all of a sudden, I get this text message, and it happened to be in, I think, late August of 2021. Okay, and I get this text message that says, "Hey, is this Carrie? I lost your number, but I got it from one of my daughter's phones. I think this is still you. Is this still your number?" I don't reply. I'm like, I know who you are, and I'm not replying to you. And it was a different phone. So his original numbers were blocked, so he couldn't get through. Now he had a new phone with a new number. I'm like, oh, great. Okay, so I'll probably have to block this one, but I'm just not going to reply. At that time, I had also been working with a young man from Tennessee that was coming. He was 23 years old. He was going to come and stay with me for a few months while he got his GED. He was in a better environment, away from drugs, and could, straighten out his life a little bit. So I gave him the opportunity to stay here for, it was going to be at least 2 weeks, up to possibly 4 months, depending on how long it took him to get his GED and everything straightened out. He was suicidal. He was a cutter. He was trying to get away from the drug friends that he had. And, I had met his mother and stuff when I went to get him, and we agreed it was a better environment for him to come here. There's another video on that. Okay. I'm not going to go into too many details. Anyway, he was here when I did get a few more text messages, but I just ignored them. But he got a little anxious. It was like his first time away from home. Tennessee to Wisconsin, that's a long ways from home. So he had wanted some weed. And anyone who knows me knows I don't care if you smoke weed. It's any other type of drug that, if you're taking pharmaceuticals that are not prescribed to you, or things like meth, cocaine, heroin. I mean, we're talking, those types of drugs. I'm like, get away from me. No, absolutely not. I've been around so many people that smoke weed. I don't. I don't need to. But that, I don't know anybody who doesn't smoke it besides me, in all honesty, and hopefully a lot of people in my church. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you what they do in their homes. But anyway, he wanted a little something to take the edge off. So I thought, well, this ex-boyfriend used to smoke weed. Maybe he'll be able to tell me where to get some. Because I don't know. I don't smoke it. So I texted him and I asked, and he called. We ended up deciding I don't know. I think I called him or he called me or whatever from the texting, and I said, well, I just want to know where you get it. Supposedly, you can drive over to Michigan, which is a couple-hour drive from here, and get it, bring it across state lines, and that's what everyone's doing apparently. I'm like, oh, so we just go to Michigan and they sell it to you? And he goes, yeah, it's not illegal over there. Note to self, never going to Michigan. Okay. I don't know. I have a problem with any state that says we're just going to start legalizing drugs, which is fine, because I will make a video on what I think they should do to fix the whole drug thing. They shouldn't legalize it. In certain states, put up big old fortresses so that those people can't get out without being drug tested. You have to be completely clean to come out to any other state or do anything like that. If they let them take all the drugs they want, let them manufacture them there, let them take them there, don't let them take it out. Anyone, if it becomes overcrowded because that's where everyone wants to live, that's fine. They'll all kill themselves off with their dang drugs. So let them. Okay. The only people they have to rob is themselves. So honestly, think about it. I'll put that together in a video. But it's a note to self: never go to Michigan. But so this young boy is like, okay, well, we could take a trip to Michigan. I was like, oh, okay, I don't know, we'll see. But he got really mad that I was talking to my ex-boyfriend. I said, okay, I won't talk to him anymore. I said, I only did it to try to figure out where we can get you some weed. That was a whole disaster and mess. And then I stopped talking to, my ex again. I didn't, reach out to him anymore after that. But anyway, then after he was here for only about a week and then he left. So when he left, then I did text, or I think my ex-boyfriend actually texted me and said something. And I put something on Facebook. I don't know if he saw it. Can't remember what the whole deal was with it, but he texted me again and asked how things were going. And I said, not good. Because I was really bummed out that the whole project that we were working on to try to give him a better environment didn't work out. I was really bummed. And then, my ex was like, we suggested, he had asked me a few days before if I wanted to go out for a drink, and I didn't respond to it. So then I said, hey, I'll take you up on that drink now. Well, he couldn't go that night either. We ended up talking, and I found out he had a girlfriend. I'm like, why are you texting me and talking to me? When you've got a girlfriend, are you living with her or what? Well, they lived in a trailer court a couple of houses away from each other. And he was like, well, it's not working out really well. We just had like an anniversary thing where I gave her an anniversary gift. It was like, I don't know, 8 months or a year and 2 months. It was some odd anniversary thing like that. And he had invested a bunch of time and stuff in it. And she had other plans that night. So she just was completely ungrateful about the whole thing, I guess. That set him off. Where he goes, she does this all the time. It just blows me off. I think she'd rather be with the neighbor guy or, I don't know. And he was like, she's, probably with all these other men and it's not working out. I want to break up with her. And I thought, oh God, I see where this is going already. You're trying to push your way in with me so that if that doesn't work out, you got a backup. Oh my gosh, people, I'll tell you, that's one of my hugest pet peeves. Oh, make sure you have backup before you break up with somebody. Otherwise, hold on to that person. If you're already looking for backup, dump the relationship. I mean, come on. It is not fair to that person to do that. So once I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh. Well, he came over anyway, and we just talked. Nothing happened. Apparently, though, the girlfriend did not know he reached out to me. He had told her some story because apparently one of the nights when I texted her, I called. He was at her place and ignored it or made some kind of comment that, well, isn't that something I must really be wanted? My ex is calling me again. And I was like, he tells me this, later in confession. And I was like, dude, I was returning your call, so you can see where he was playing both sides of the fence here, and he's, giving her this story and stuff, that I contacted him and I was chasing him. And I'm like, no, not even close. Not close at all. Anyway, he ended up having like a complete breakdown, came over to my place. I guess what happened was they got into, well, he came over to my place that night. The next day, when he went home, they got into a fight because they were having this conversation because her uncle, who she was really close to, had just died. And she was really broken up. They had this conversation. He ended up calling her my name. And she went off because apparently she knew my name as the ex. And she went off on him. She was already clearly very emotional. He ended up coming over to my place, completely breaking down, confessing what was happening. Ended up, his daughter ended up calling him while he was here. And he told me he called her my name. He goes, I'm sorry, I do that to everybody. He goes, I don't know. Did you put some kind of spell on me or something? He goes, I say your name all the time. I'm like, what are you talking about? So his daughter called and he goes, tell her. I call people Carrie all the time. He goes, I can be talking to a guy named Mike and I'll call him Carrie out of nowhere. And then his daughter confirmed, she goes, yeah, he does it all the time. Sometimes he'll call me Carrie. She goes, he is always saying your name. I'm like, okay, something's really weird about that. But I'm like, okay, I'll just let that go. Clearly, you have a subconscious issue where you can't forget my name or something. Um, but anyway, the next day after that, so he goes home, and the next day after that, calls me in the afternoon, and he's freaking out because she's texting him some crazy texts. I end up taking a couple hours off from my job because he's so freaked out and panicked. We talk on the phone. He's telling me everything she's texting. Here's what he wants to text back. And I said, here's the deal. The stuff she was texting was vile and mean and terrible. At least 50 text messages had to do with just me being all kinds of names that I don't think I can say on YouTube. Okay. I never met this girl before a day in my life. Didn't really know the whole story of what, she knew about me. Didn't care. Just knew that based on the way she was texting, I said, she's enraged. You texting anything back right now is just going to enrage her further. She's looking for an argument. You need to play this cool and just not text until she says something rational. Let her find her rationality before you say anything back. And in the texting, she's like, that's it. I'm done with you. I'm breaking up. So then he did text her back and he says, so we're for sure done. We're done. I can do whatever I want now. And she's like, yep, whatever. He goes, there, I'm free. He goes, I'm gonna come over and spend the night at your place. It's like, oh God, here we go. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the sex with him was good. And so was I considering having sex with him again? Yeah, I would have, no biggie. But it wasn't like, oh, I wanted to jump into a relationship or anything with him either. But I would have been okay with giving him some breakup sex. Whatever. Um, anyway, this goes on for hours. This texting enragement and the things she was saying were just horrible, but nothing, dangerous. I was just basically, don't respond. She's gaslighting you. Some things, then all of a sudden she'd come down in the way she'd say it. I go, that's a gaslighting statement. Don't respond to that either. And he goes, tell me when I can, basically I am choreographing this texting war. Because he told me what should I say? Nothing. Or, okay, say this. Um, and literally he was so freaked out that he's literally texting everything I'm saying. I'm like, okay, this is insane. We're all 50 in her 50s, except, well, I think she's like 10 years younger than him or something, so she might be in her early 40s or something. But I'm like, this is insane. This is what teenagers do. I mean, what's wrong with you? If you're this crazy, you clearly don't want to break up with her, but yet you've taken all the actions to ruin the relationship. But yeah, I couldn't understand where he's going, but I was still trying to be a friend. I was trying to be a friend. I did not want, that's why I kept telling him, okay, reconfirm with her. Are we still broken up? Because usually, as a female, I know we will say stuff like that, or, well, I'm contemplating divorce. Well, that means that might have crossed our mind for 2 seconds. That was it. So from I was putting a female perspective on it and going, okay, just don't jump at everything she's saying as she means this for eternity. She's angry. She's just saying things out of the heat of the moment right now. And it's a 2-second thought process. So don't take anything she's saying to heart. You need to reconfirm the things that you're concerned about, because that's the only way you're going to know. But, and in her defense, her uncle had just died. She was called by some other woman's name. I understood her anger, no doubt about it. So when she called me all those names and all those messages, I just kind of laughed. I was like, well, she doesn't know me. I'm not going to take this personal, but I can see why she'd be angry and upset. So I'm just going to let this one ride out. Anyway, she confirmed the breakup several times, but then all of a sudden, later that evening, he was here with his daughter, because he was just pacing. Like, he couldn't be at home because he's pacing. Even here, he couldn't calm down. And his daughter's like, you just watch TV or do something. I'll take care of your dad because he's losing his mind. And so I was glad he was here. But then while he was here, she's texting, and I'm not really done with you yet. It's not really over, blah, blah, blah. So all that stuff started. Well, then here comes Facebook. So now she wants to get back together with him. But then she goes out on Facebook and puts the whole drama out there. He goes, I'm responding to this. I go, no, you're not. No, you're not. You are not going to join a Facebook war now. You are going to act like whether you either haven't seen it or you've seen it, and okay, she has a right to just vent, whatever. You are not going to fight back. He goes, but she's not telling the whole truth. I don't care. That is not a place to air your dirty laundry. You are going to be the bigger person, and you are not going to continue that. Let everyone say whatever they want to say. Let them believe in one-sided perspective of the story. You know the truth, and that's all that really matters. Let it go. And I was so thankful that I was around him, because there would have been a huge Facebook war. But he was like, okay, I won't do it. And I'm like, dude, you gotta believe me. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because this is what a grown, mature person should do. And we're not going to indulge in a Facebook war here. This isn't going to happen. So I told him not to respond. He didn't. She was getting petty and childish and ridiculous. He ended up going home while she was completely spiraling out of control. The next day, contacts me and says, okay, well, we're really broken up. I'm going to get my keys from her. So he goes, can you stay on the phone with me? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, why? And he goes, you got to hear this. You got to hear what she's like. I'm just like, I really don't need to, but whatever, if that makes you feel more comfortable. So I stayed on the phone with him, and he went over to get the keys. She threw stuff at him. She kicked him, and she was beating him up in her house, and he got out, and he's screaming, I'm going to call the police, and blah, blah. And then she starts texting, and he's reading me these text messages, how she's going to burn his house down and hurt his kids. She's going to find me and do stuff to me, and all this violent, horribly violent stuff. And I'm like, that's it. We need to call the police. I'm calling the police for my own protection at this point. I know she doesn't know who I am, but it doesn't mean she can't find me. And your children need to be safe. I says, she's gone too far now. Now this has gone too far. I got her rage in the beginning, but she needs to settle down. This is now day 3. And now she's threatening lives and property. And this is not normal behavior. She's a lunatic. You have got a complete psycho lunatic on your hands. And I wanted to call the police. He begged me. He goes, no, don't. She's got a record. Oh. So we're dealing with somebody who's already been to jail. You didn't see this coming? Dude, you did not see this coming. I could have told you if you would have told me that from the get-go, that the police are probably going to have to get involved because this person is a lunatic. Anyway, I listened to him, and I says, I won't, call the police. He ends up, we talked that night, and he goes, I have a big decision to make. The next day, he calls me, and I had already known about some of my health issues already. I was making some decisions about some things, and hadn't made any final decisions, but I told him about them and kind of what my final decisions were going to be and what I felt at the time. And he ended up going back to her saying, well, listen, we're just friends. This is what we're talking about. She's got these health issues, and I just kind of want to be there for her. And she goes, oh, she's lying, blah, blah, blah. I don't even care. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to be here for me. It's okay. So then the next day we talked again, and I did everything I could to make him see that talking to me was not in his best benefit, that we weren't going to be long-term friends. And he, said, okay, goes, I'm going to tell, she says I can have no contact with you. And I says, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. That's a good idea. You and her go off to your little fairy tale land of psychoism, and please let me, with my issues, be in peace. Okay, because I don't need this. This is. I was trying to help you. I really don't need this. It's too much stress on me, and I'm not letting you back in my life anyway. So I don't know what you're doing here, dude. If you were looking at just breaking up with her to be with me, well, that's pointless because that's not going to happen. But anyway, so then she demanded he send me this nasty gram, but he had told her he had deleted my phone number and emails and all that stuff, which clearly he didn't. I mean, all he ever did, I think, the whole time was lie to her. I feel bad for the girl, kind of like you should have dumped him anyway, chick. I mean, you'd been better off without him, but whatever. She can have him. I don't care. That's the life she wants. You go for it, honey. But he had to go to my YouTube page and send me an email there through the email address that I had listed in one of my descriptions, that I was to never contact him again and leave him at peace. He has a girlfriend he's happy with, blah, 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 blah. Again, playing on the whole, I reached out to him. I wanted to find him. Hadn't thought about him in a year, in all honesty. So it was like, that's fine. He told me he was sending it. You do that, I will reply back. And I replied back, good, blah, blah, blah. Have a good life. Never heard from him. Again, after that, because I was like, I'm grateful it's over. And he's gone. So I thought. Anyone who's watched my stalker video knows that there was a stalker for almost 2 years, well, a little over a year, that lived in the apartment below me, kitty corner, kind of, but in the floor below me, and could watch my comings and goings from that apartment. And he moved. I was so happy he moved. Guess who moved in? Oh, it's priceless. It's priceless. The fox has rented the place. He's either living there or his daughter might be living there. It might be for his daughter, or I don't know, his sister who lived in Michigan, unless she came back here now and she needed a place to stay. But he has full access to my apartment, him and his psycho lunatic girlfriend now. Oh, it just never ends. It never ends. It never ends. They just can't ever leave people in peace, can they? They just have to keep going. So that apartment has now been replaced with, for my stalker, to some psycho lunatic's ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend, who's completely crazy. And come near me once, honey, you're going to jail. That's all I gotta say. You got a record, I don't. I'm pretty sure you'll be out of here before you know it, if you even come near me, so don't do it. For your best benefit. They're both completely blocked. I found her on Facebook too and blocked her and everything. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this woman ever either. He had to end up going back because apparently he likes being used and controlled. There's 100 different things I could state on how she was controlling him and using him, just between the texting and some of the examples he gave me, though I don't know how much of it was the truth, so I don't put too much stock in a lot of what he said. And I just realized that, sometimes you just can't help people from themselves. They're going to make their mistakes. I personally think he's afraid of being lonely. And too many of the online people turned out to be frauds or different things. They had met online. They had been together 8 months, I guess. I think they had been together total. So, he got used to that and couldn't let it go. Unfortunately, if it was disappearing on him, which I think he thought it was, then he went to his backup plan, which was me. And unfortunately, dude, that's not a good backup plan because I'm not going to be there for you. to date anyway. Bible verses that came to mind when I reran all of this through my life was from Zechariah chapter 11, verse 6. And it says, "For I will no longer have pity on the inhabitants of the land, declares the Lord. But behold, I will cause the men to fall, each into another's power, and into the power of his king. And they will strike the land, and I will not deliver them from their power." So, there's a really good example where, at some point, God says, I have to stop having pity on people. If you're going to use power and control with other people, I'll let somebody else have the power and control over you, and then I'm not going to pull you from it because you chose to try to control somebody else. This is kind of where the situation ended, where it seems like it was a power control issue in a relationship. And it is kind of with our relationship with God. If we want to have all the power and the control, he'll give it to us, but he's not going to save us from ourselves, is what it boils down to. Another one is from the Gospels, Luke chapter 7, verse 13. "When the Lord saw her, he felt compassion for her and said to her, 'Do not weep.'" And I kind of thought of that for myself in a way. With God, they're saying, there is all this chaos and everything, and you're going through enough with your own health issues, but don't weep. Don't. I'm here. And that brings me comfort and peace, even though they may be living downstairs now, for all I know. Go figure. Then I was also, what brought to mind was a quote that I really liked, and I don't know who wrote this. I think I got this off of some some store that I saw it in, where it was on one of those picture frames or something. But I wrote it down, and it's always meant so much to me because it is so true. To a point, life is like a camera. Focus on what's important. Capture the good times. Develop from the negatives. And if things don't work out, take another shot. And that's been very inspirational for me too. It is the focus, the capture, and the developing. If it doesn't work out, don't let that stop you. Just go again. Take another picture. And hopefully the next one will turn out much better. Anyway, hopefully somebody got something out of that. If you're in a relationship where you are being controlled, hit, yelled at, called nasty names, told who you can and can't speak to, talk to, see. In his case, he is in an abusive relationship of all forms with, I would have to say, a true narcissist, because this is somebody who did everything they could to tear and shred him apart. And then, oh, but I want you back. And then as soon as he started showing signs that, okay, he's going to let it go, tearing him apart again, and to the point of hitting and kicking. And this is abuse. Don't let your fear of loneliness cause you to stay in a relationship like that. That kind of person, the more power and control that they have over you, the harder it's going to be to get out one day. And the longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out. So my piece of advice, you're never alone. Never alone. Okay? God's always with me. Might not always hear him, might not always feel him, but I know he's here. I know he's going to get me through to tomorrow. I'm not alone. There's going to be somebody that I can talk to, even if it's just somebody smiling to me on the street. That gives me that smile, tells me I'm not alone. I was noticed by a human being. They smiled at me. That can get me through to tomorrow, okay? But there's better people out there. And, people who are trying to control you by being abusive, such as this particular situation, one, I wouldn't say that he deserved the abuse even though he was lying to her, because nobody does. At that point, she should have been rational and been like, we're done. Goodbye. I don't want to talk to you. And walked away from him or said, I need my space. I'm not going to talk to you for a few days. I need my space to figure out what I want in my life. Different things like that. There's so much better ways to handle it than being enraged and angry and vile and terrible to other people or saying mean, terrible things, especially about people you don't even know. But get out. Find somebody to help you get out. I was the last person he should have counted on to help him, and I did. Okay, I was still there for him. I was still his friend. Will I the next time? Absolutely not. Nope. Because he's chosen. He wants this life of abuse. The next time, I will tell him, and only because of how much of a lunatic I think she is, I will say, you need to call the police for help this time. I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to be that shelter for you, but the police can help you. So go to them. Unfortunately, that's the only avenue he's allowed now, or that I would feel safe or comfortable with at this point. But get out. Don't stay in those relationships. They're not worth it. Everybody deserves something better. Okay. Remember, God loves you, and own the truth before the truth owns you. Don't be a liar like he was. Okay. Love you. Bye.